Well, welcome everyone to Steve Savant's Money, the name of the game. I'm your host, Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and money color commentator. On today's show, calculating the family's need for college assistance, part 3 in our series on funding strategies for college with college funding expert Claire Frey. Well, welcome to the show, Claire.
Thanks for having me, Steve. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I'm glad you're here because we need to be escorted through this. This sounds like a process. I mean, I wish I knew what you were telling me when my kids were going through school. I think I would save myself a ton of money and got a lot more help than I thought. And especially that last segment, it really helped to understand, hey, people that think they can't, they're disqualified because they're making six-figure money, maybe not. All right, now walk me through this thing. You know, we're talking about, in this section, family needs analysis. You know, this, what is it called? EFC, is it?
EFC, the three magic letters in the financial aid process. When you submit your FAFSA, your free application for federal student aid, you're going to get a number back, and that's your expected family contribution. What it is what the government thinks that you can afford to pay for 1 year of college. There's over 74 factors that go into determining EFC, top being parents' income, parents' assets, students' income, students' assets, and number of people in your household. Families need to know how to legally, morally, ethically just list what they're supposed to. And if there are strategies available and applicable to them where they can shelter their assets, get this number down, it is crucial to plan for that and to do so.
Okay, so when I'm looking at this number, when you're talking to people, this is a new phrase, this expected family contribution, right? Nobody knows this.
So few people have heard of it, and it is such a huge acronym in this process. Knowing your EFC can mean the difference of thousands of dollars more financial
And you said
aid.
there's 74 touching points here, right? I mean, touch points here, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
If you want to know your EFC in general, this is a calculator online that you can go and get an idea of what your EFC is going to be after you submit your FAFSA. When families come and see me, we go much more detailed. We use advanced software that's going to look at their EFC specific to your financial situation. A lot of
You just brought up a very great idea here. Like, I'm going to go out there and on my own, just get an idea. If we went out there under your guidance, that number is not going to be the same.
Yes. We're going to look at not just what's the EFC, but what's triggering the EFC,
Right.
what's affecting it,
Right.
and shed light on areas where we might be able to strategize to decrease EFC. Again, it is crucial to implement every strategy applicable to make sure that this number is as low as possible. There's 163 different ways by which families can go about reducing expected family contribution. It's kind of like tax planning.
Now, the good thing about this is uniform throughout all the college process, right? EFC, everybody knows that number. They're using that number.
Yes. EFC is the same for every college you apply to. It doesn't change from one school to another. A caveat, though, is there's the federal methodology for calculating expected family contribution and the institutional. All schools, if you're going to apply for financial aid, require the FAFSA. Some schools, in addition to FAFSA, require the CSS profile, the College Scholarship Survey. And they have slightly different measures for calculating EFC. So those two numbers might be slightly different. But it really is like a springboard, Steve, meaning that EFC can go way up or way down, depending on either mistakes that you make in the process or proper planning.
We're in our third segment on this. I'm just starting to get a tenor in the way you speak that this is not a go-it-yourself-alone process. You really need somebody that knows what they're doing.
You do. And when you submit your financial aid forms with mistakes, you are leaving thousands of dollars on the table off the table that you could have otherwise received in financial aid. So very important to know this number down to the detail and understand every option and strategy available to you that you can go about decreasing it. How does the school determine whether you're eligible for need-based financial aid? And if you recall, we talked about the three main areas where financial aid is available: institutional merit, need-based aid. Well, the calculation for what a family is eligible for in that need-based bucket, cost of attendance minus expected family contribution, equals the need. The need is simply how much financial aid a family is eligible for. Steve, if you went home, looked at your EFC and said, okay, my expected family contribution is $25,000. We work with a lot of families in St. Louis. So an example I know off the top of my head, if your EFC is $25,000, your son or daughter's looking at Mizzou. Cost of attendance at Mizzou is about $25,000. So what would your need be at Mizzou? 25 minus 25, 0. You're not eligible for any financial aid at that state school. Say your son or daughter decides, I want to look at WashU. Private school, cost of attendance is $70,000. Most parents are thinking, that's almost 3 times as much as the state school. There's no way we can afford that. Don't even apply. And what would the need be at WashU? 70,000 minus 25,000. A family in that situation would be eligible for $45,000 of need-based financial aid at the private school. So this is how this works. And when families go about shopping for schools, the thing that they're usually most looking at first and foremost is the cost. However, the system is backwards. Families don't typically know their EFC until March or April of senior year. So the system's backwards here. And also we've come across many families who think, well, the financial aid office at the school, we're going to call them and have them help us figure it out. Steve, that's like someone telling me I'm going to go to the IRS and have them do my taxes for me. So making sure that you understand it's not just about getting those forms in and submitted. It's about making sure that you're not getting taken advantage of and knowing the strategies to put yourself in the best position to get all of the money that you're actually eligible for. So when a student receives their award letter, there are 2 types of financial aid. There's gift aid. That's free money. Money that comes in grants, scholarships, doesn't have to be paid back. And self-help. This is work-study programs and the federal student loans, interest-free, interest you can defer until after graduation. They're the good loans, and still you have to establish the need to qualify for them. And then once you have established your need, 3 questions every family needs to be asking to each school that they're applying to. What percentage of need do you meet? And there are schools that may meet 100% of need and some schools that only meet 50% of need. Of percentage of need met, what percent is that free money versus self-help? And then third, how long does it take to graduate? If you look online right now, statistically, public state schools, they're averaging about 6 years. They're not boasting that on their websites, I can guarantee you that. And private schools, they do a better job of getting the students in and out with a degree in 4 years.
That's a stat I did not know. You're saying the average state school is almost 6 years to graduation. So whatever my number is probably 50% higher.
Yeah, if you're seeing, okay, $25,000 cost of attendance for the state school versus $50,000 for the private school, keep in mind, statistically, there's a very high chance that you'll be paying that for another year or 2. Here's a case study, taking what we just talked about a step further. On the left, there's a private school. Let's say these are real cases, by the way. I've just rounded these numbers to make the math easier. On the left is St. Olaf. Private school, cost of attendance, about $40,000. And the family's EFC, expected family contribution, $10,000. They have a need at St. Olaf of $30,000. So when we broke it down to see what does the family actually pay out of pocket, St. Olaf is a school that meets 100% of need. And of that, 80% is free money. The grant scholarships doesn't have to be paid back. 20% is self-help. So what's the out-of-pocket? The $10,000, the starting point, the family's expected family contribution, and then of the $30,000 need, they're giving you $24,000 free money, and then $6,000 is a student loan and a work-study combination. So 10 is you, 6 is the student, $16,000 out of the $40,000 cost of attendance is their out-of-pocket. Steve, do you think that's a good deal?
Well, compared to what I saw when my kids went through. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great
That's a
deal.
great deal.
That's less than half the cost. Over on the right, I live in Colorado. This is Adams State. It's state school, cheaper, cost $20,000. And then EFC, remember, it doesn't change from one year to another, from one school to another, $10,000. This family has a need of $10,000 at Adams State. And similar to a lot of the public schools, they meet 60% of need. So there's going to be a shortage, $4,000 of need that will not be met. And then of the need they're meeting, the 50% free money, 50% self-help. So what do we actually pay at the state school out of pocket? The starting point, $4,000, that unmet need, that gets added onto the out of pocket. And $14,000 is you, $3,000, the school's giving the family free money, and the other $3,000 is a student loan. So 10 plus 4 plus 3, $17,000 for the state school. If you recall, we talked about how long does it take to graduate. There's a good chance they'll probably be paying that for at least an additional year. So 17,000 times 5, 85,000 for the degree at the state school versus more likely 64,000 for the degree at the private school. And this case here is very typical of what we see from most families. Do not assume that you can't afford a private school. Because when you understand EFC, expected family contribution, and these formulas in the financial aid process, you very realistically can send your child to a private school for the same or even less out of pocket than a state school.
Well, I want to thank you, Claire, for coming into the studio and sharing this series on funding strategies for college. And remember, keep in mind, before you move forward with anything we talk about on the show, always check with your tax consultant, legal counsel, or in this case, your financial advisor. You've been watching Steve Savant's Money, the name of the game.